Welcome back to another deep dive. Today we're tackling a skill set that I honestly believe is one of the most high-stakes survival mechanisms in the modern workplace. It isn't coding, it isn't Excel wizardry, and it isn't even, public speaking. It is the delicate, often terrifying art of complaining without sounding like a complainer.
It is the subtle difference, isn't it? The difference between being seen as a high-value problem solver and being branded, well, a problem creator. And let's be honest, that is a very, very fine line to walk.
It really is. I mean, we all have those days, right? The printer's broken for the 10th time this week. Your colleague, let's just, hypothetically call him Dave, is microwaving fish in the break room again.
Oh, not Dave. Never Dave.
Always Dave. Or, the project deadlines coming down from management are just completely detached from reality. The urge to just stand up in the middle of the office and scream, "This is a disaster," it's incredibly strong sometimes.
But if you do that, you lose all credibility. Instantly, you just become the emotional variable in the room, not the strategic one.
Exactly. So our mission today is to unpack the source material you've brought to the table. We're looking at a comprehensive guide on professional English communication, but specifically the chapters that are focused on workplace problem solving, conflict resolution, and feedback strategies.
Right.
We're going to look at how to articulate those disasters, those frustrations, and those toxic moments in a way that actually gets results and, more importantly, keeps you employed.
Precisely. And what's fascinating about the material we're diving into today is that it frames this not just as manners or being polite, but as a strategic use of linguistics. It's communication engineering.
Communication engineering. I like that.
Yeah. And whether you're a non-native speaker trying to navigate the nuance of English corporate culture or you've been in the game for 20 years, the core dilemma is always the same. How do I be honest about a mess while remaining diplomatic and solution-oriented?
Honest, but diplomatic. Because silence just isn't the answer, is it? If the ship is sinking, you have to say something. You can't just keep, rearranging the deck chairs.
You have to speak up. I mean, silence in the face of operational failure is basically negligence. But the wrong kind of noise is just noise. If you just scream iceberg, all you do is create panic.
Right.
But if you say, "I've detected an obstacle and here is a proposed course correction," well, you might actually save the ship.
Okay, so that's what we're aiming for. So today we're going to cover corporate code, what people say versus what they actually mean.
Yes, the good stuff.
We're going to look at specific idioms, the famous sandwich method, and my personal favorite, how to tell your boss their idea is terrible without committing career suicide.
A critical skill, and I know a lot of listeners are waiting for that one. But let's start with the basics. With the foundation. The source material highlights a really fundamental concept, almost a golden rule of this whole thing. Impact versus blame.
Impact versus blame.
This is everything. If you get this part wrong, nothing else we discuss today really matters. The source breaks it down beautifully. Most of us, when we're frustrated, our default setting is to point a finger at a person.
It's instinctual.
It's totally instinctual. We are wired, evolutionarily, to identify the villain. Who stole my food? Who broke the spear?
Right. And it feels good, in a way, to just say, Sarah messed up the budget. It's clear, it's direct, and it kind of gets the anger out of your system. For a second.
But think about how that actually lands in a professional setting. Okay. It's accusatory. It's personal. As soon as you say, Sarah messed up, the listener, whether it's Sarah herself or a manager, they immediately go into defense mode.
Yeah, the walls go up.
The walls go straight up.
Right.
If it's Sarah, she's defending her ego, her competence. If it's a manager, they feel like you're just dragging them into some kind of playground squabble. The conversation stops being about the budget.
And it starts being about Sarah.
Exactly. It becomes a referendum on Sarah's competence.
So what's the fix? The source gives a specific before and after here that I found really, really illuminating.
It does. The good phrasing shifts the subject of the sentence away from the person and onto the situation. So instead of Sarah messed up, you say something like, there were inaccuracies in the budget which led to unexpected expenses.
There were inaccuracies. It sounds so passive. My high school English teacher would probably yell at me for using the passive voice, but I totally see the utility here.
It's not passive in the sense of being weak. It's objective. You are reporting a fact. The inaccuracies exist. That is indisputable. And then crucially, you are highlighting the consequence, the unexpected expenses.
Right. The impact.
The impact. It focuses everyone on the error and the solution, not on the person who made the mistake.
Yeah.
It turns the problem into an object that we can all look at together on the table and figure out how to fix, rather than a weapon that we're throwing at Sarah.
It just lowers the temperature in the room immediately. You aren't attacking, you're just observing.
Completely.
Yeah.
And the source calls these neutral statements. A great example they use is about a colleague who is, say, habitually slow with their work. Instead of saying, he never sends his reports on time, which sounds like you're whining about his character.
Which, to be fair, he never is almost always an exaggeration anyway. I mean, nobody never does anything.
Exactly. And using those absolutes, always and never, it just destroys your credibility because it's so easy to disprove.
Yeah.
Someone just has to find one time he did it and your whole argument falls apart.
It was the neutral way.
The guide suggests you say, there have been delays in receiving reports, which is impacting the project timeline.
Impacting the project timeline. That's the key phrase, isn't it? You're connecting the personal annoyance to a concrete business result.
That is the why it matters. You aren't just annoyed because you're impatient. The project is at risk. That frames you as a guardian of the company's interests, not just a coworker who's, annoyed by a peer.
Okay, so that handles the human error side of things pretty well. But what about when the machines rise up against us? The source talks about navigating technical problems. I feel like this is where a lot of people accidentally make themselves look incompetent.
It's what the source calls the helplessness trap. You run into a software bug, a broken printer, a process that just doesn't work. The first instinct for a lot of people is just to throw their hands up, sigh really loudly, and say, the system is broken, or I can't do this.
And to a manager, that just sounds like, I am now giving this problem to you. To solve. Carry me.
Correct. It signals a total lack of agency, which is why the source introduces what it calls the I've tried formula.
Yeah.
And this is just, it's brilliant in its simplicity.
Yeah, okay.
When you report a technical issue, you immediately, right up front, list what you have already attempted to do to fix it.
So it's not just the printer is broken in a Slack message.
No, never. It's, hey, I've been having trouble with the software. I've already tried restarting the program. I've checked all the connections, and I even cleared the cache, but the issue persists. Can you help?
That is such a small change in phrasing, but the signal it sends is just huge.
It's a game changer. It signals resourcefulness. It says, I am a problem solver who has hit a wall, not I am a helpless employee who gives up at the first sign of trouble. It changes the whole dynamic from a parent-child relationship, fix this for me, to a peer-to-peer relationship. I've done the basic troubleshooting. Now I need to escalate to an expert.
And the source mentions that this actually makes asking for help a strength, not a weakness. I know a lot of listeners worry about that asking for help makes them look unqualified.
It's actually the opposite when you do it this way. In fact, not asking for help is the weakness. There's a great anecdote in the notes about a colleague who was too proud to ask for help with a database migration.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. They just sat there for 3 days trying to figure it out, didn't tell a soul, and eventually missed a critical deadline that cost the company a client. That is weakness. Strength is knowing your limit.
So what are the phrases to use?
The source suggests things like, I'm not entirely sure how to proceed from here, or I could use some guidance on this next step. When you pair that with, here is what I've already tried, asking for help becomes a professional collaboration. It's a sign of competence.
I really like that framing. It's all about owning your own initiative, even when you're stuck. Now let's move into the fun stuff. Section 2 of our deep dive is called Decoding the Language of the Office. The source material dives into all these idioms and phrasal verbs that are absolutely pervasive.
And this is so crucial, especially for anyone working in an English-speaking environment for the first time. I mean, these phrases are the grease in the gears of corporate communication. If you take them literally, you might be really confused. If you don't use them, you might sound a bit stiff, a bit like a robot.
Okay, let's run through a few. Workload descriptions. The source lists to be snowed under.
A classic. I'm completely snowed under with paperwork.
Yeah.
It just paints such a vivid picture. You're buried. You literally cannot move. It implies the workload is coming from above like a blizzard, and you're just trying to dig yourself out. It's not your fault. It's the weather.
And what about swamped?
Swamped with customer inquiries. A similar vibe, right? It implies a marsh or a bog. You're stuck. You're wading through thick mud. These are socially acceptable ways to say, I have too much to do without screaming or crying. It turns personal stress into a shared, almost weather-related event.
That's a great way of putting it. Okay, what about when things break? We have on the fritz.
The printer is on the fritz. It means it's malfunctioning, but usually intermittently. It's acting up. It's making weird noises. It might work 1 minute and not the next.
As opposed to out of order.
Right. Out of order means it is dead. It is non-functional. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. It's done.
And a hiccup. I use this one all the time. We had a slight hiccup in the production process.
It minimizes the issue, doesn't it?
Yeah.
A hiccup is temporary. It's an involuntary spasm, and then it's gone. You wouldn't call a factory explosion a hiccup.
Probably not.
You use this when you want to reassure leadership that, yes, something went wrong, but we have it under control and we're back on track. It's all about controlling the narrative of the failure.
The source makes a really interesting point here about clarity, though. It says to avoid using jargon just to sound smart. That real intelligence is actually communicated through clear, concise language.
Yes, there's this tendency, especially when we feel insecure about a problem, to hide behind big multisyllabic words. But saying we're experiencing a suboptimal throughput variance due to legacy hardware constraints is just annoying.
It sounds like you're hiding something.
Exactly. It sounds like you're trying to confuse me so I don't ask any follow-up questions. Saying we're snowed under because the old server is on the fritz is actually clearer, it's more human, and it builds more trust.
But then, and here is where it gets really spicy, we have corporate code. This is the section on what they say versus what they actually mean. This honestly felt like a glossary for every painful meeting I have ever been in.
It is the language of corporate euphemism. We use these codes to soften blows, to maintain harmony, to lie politely. The source highlights a big one, the learning opportunity.
Which translates to,
this is a massive, unmitigated disaster. We probably lost a lot of money, but we are frantically trying to stay positive so nobody gets fired.
Right, I've definitely heard that one. Or exploring alternative strategies.
Oh yeah, that is code for the original plan failed miserably. The source mentions a marketing campaign that just completely flopped, and the boss said, we're transitioning to exploring alternative strategies. Sounds so proactive and strategic, doesn't it?
Very forward thinking.
But it really just means plan A is dead in the water, and we're scrambling for a plan B.
And my absolute favorite, the one word that can end a career. Interesting.
Oh, that's certainly interesting.
That is the kiss of death.
It absolutely is. It is a polite but incredibly loaded way of criticizing an idea without actually saying, I hate it and I think it's stupid. If you present a new product idea and the room goes silent, and then your boss leans back and says, that's an interesting approach, you need to pivot immediately.
They are not fascinated. They are deeply skeptical.
Deeply. So why do we do this? Why not just say, that failed, or that's a bad idea?
I guess it's about social harmony.
It's about maintaining morale and letting people save face. It's social lubrication. If you were all brutally honest all the time, your idea is bad, we failed, I'm angry with you, the social fabric of the office would just tear apart. We have to work with these people tomorrow.
So these codes allow us to reject an idea without rejecting the person.
Precisely. But there's a risk, and the source is clear about this.
That it can mask severity.
That's the danger. If you sugarcoat it too much, if you call a 5-alarm fire a hiccup, people might not realize the building is actually burning down. You have to know when to drop the code and speak plainly.
Okay, so moving from code words to actual strategies, the source outlines 3 specific scenarios that I think every single listener has faced at some point. Scenario A, the overwhelming workload. We talked about using idioms like snowed under, but how do you actually tell your boss, please, for the love of God, stop giving me work?
The trap here is making it personal. Saying, I'm so stressed sounds like an emotional problem, maybe one you should take to a therapist. Saying, I have too much work can sound like a complaint about the basic requirements of your job.
So what's the fix? How do you frame it?
You make it about the system or the output. The phrase the source suggests is something like, the current workload distribution is impacting our ability to meet our deadlines.
There it is again, that impact word. It's not about my feelings or my stress levels. It's about the deadlines. It's about the company's goals.
Exactly. And you must, this is critical, you must pair the complaint with a solution pitch. You can't just drop the problem on the boss's desk and walk away. That's just dumping.
So you have to come with an idea.
Always. You say, perhaps we could reprioritize some of these tasks, or is it possible to bring in some temporary support for Project X? You offer a path forward. You're a partner in solving the problem.
The source gives a great little script for setting boundaries here. It's, due to my current workload, I am unable to take on additional tasks at this moment. Could we discuss prioritizing?
That phrase, could we discuss prioritizing, is the power move. It's brilliant. You aren't saying, no, I won't do it. You are saying, my capacity is finite. I am a professional who understands my limits. If you want me to do task Z, that's fine, but you, the manager, need to tell me whether to drop task X or task Y to make room for it.
It puts the decision back on them without you looking insubordinate.
It makes the trade-off visible. It forces them to manage. It's perfect.
Brilliant. Okay, scenario B, systemic inefficiency. The business case approach. This is for when the software is ancient, the process is just stupid, or you're doing manual data entry that a monkey could and should be doing.
Right. The example used in the source is a manual invoicing system that was constantly causing errors. The temptation is to just moan about it all the time. This takes forever. I hate doing the invoices.
Which to your manager just makes you sound lazy, or like you're unwilling to do the necessary grunt work.
Exactly. So the strategy is, don't moan, gather data.
Data is your best friend.
It's your only friend in this situation. In the case study, the employee didn't just complain. They quietly, over a month, tracked the number of hours spent on this manual entry, and more importantly, the financial cost of correcting the errors that the system was causing.
Oh, that's smart. The cost of the errors.
That's the clincher. They then presented this data to management alongside a well-researched proposal for specific automation software.
And the result?
Management agreed almost immediately. Not because they suddenly cared about the employee's frustration. Let's be real, they don't always care about that. But because the argument was based on efficiency and cost savings. You turn a personal complaint into a compelling business proposal.
That is such a huge mindset shift. You aren't complaining about your work. You are proposing an efficiency upgrade that saves the company money and time.
Exactly. You are speaking your language, the language of the bottom line.
Okay. Scenario C, the big one. Telling the boss they are wrong. The source actually calls this the career-limiting move if you do it wrong.
Because it is. Direct criticism of a superior is, it's dangerous territory. If you just say, your plan is going to fail, you are challenging their authority, their judgment, their ego, all at once.
So what do you do?
The source suggests the question method. You frame your objection as an inquiry, a point of curiosity. Have we considered how this might affect the sales team? Or what are your thoughts on how this might impact the Q4 budget?
It's Socratic. You're leading them to the flaw in their own plan without pointing at it and laughing.
You're helping them discover the problem for themselves. It lets them save face and maintain ownership of the idea, even as they change it. And then, of course, there's the famous sandwich method.
I love the sandwich method. Break it down for us.
It's a classic feedback tool. You start with a positive. That's the top bun. I really appreciate the innovative thinking on this new marketing strategy.
Butter them up a little.
A little. Then you insert the meat, the negative feedback or the critique. However, I'm concerned this approach might stretch our budget a bit thin based on the Q3 numbers. And then you have to close with another positive, the bottom bun. Overall, though, I think the target audience you've identified is exactly right, and this could be a big win.
So it cushions the blow. It makes the critique more palatable.
It does. It signals loyalty. It says, I'm on your team and I see the good parts, while still delivering the crucial warning. But here is a risk we need to address. It prevents the boss from feeling personally attacked.
But there's a danger here too, right?
A huge danger. You have to be so careful not to make the bread so thick that they miss the meat. Don't bury the lead so deep in compliments that they walk away thinking you completely agreed with them. The critique has to be clear, even if it's sandwiched in praise.
That's a good point. Okay, so those are the operational and strategic problems. But what about the people problems? The source has a whole section, section 4, dealing with interpersonal conflict and, quote, difficult people. We have a whole rogues gallery here. First up, the constant interrupter.
This is so frustrating. You're in a meeting, you're trying to make a point, and someone just steamrolls right over you.
All the time.
The source suggests a few tactics. Verbally, you can use a firm but polite, hold on, I'd like to finish my thought.
That takes a bit of courage, though. You have to be willing to create that tiny moment of social friction.
It does. But if you don't do it, you're just training them that it's okay to interrupt you. You're reinforcing the behavior. There are also nonverbal cues, like holding up a hand slightly, that universal stop gesture. It's primal, but it can be really effective.
And if you're leading the meeting,
be preemptive. Set the ground rules at the very beginning. Great to have everyone here. Just so we stay on track, let's hold all questions and comments until the end of each section. You manage the room from the start.
What about the credit stealer? This one makes my blood boil. The person who always says I when they should be saying we.
The strategy here is really counterintuitive. Your gut instinct is to fight back and say, no, wait, I did that part. but that just makes you look petty and defensive.
So what do you do instead?
Instead, the source recommends you play the opposite game. You kill them with kindness, specifically, public kindness and recognition toward everyone else. You become the one who publicly recognizes everyone's contribution.
This was a massive collaborative effort. I just want to acknowledge Sarah for her incredible work on the data analysis and Mark for his brilliant strategy.
Exactly. By doing that, you ensure credit is shared, including with yourself, implicitly, without looking like you're grappling for the spotlight. If you praise the whole team, you look like a leader. The credit stealer, by contrast, starts to look isolated and selfish. You win by taking the high road.
That is some 4D chess right there. I like it. Now, the chronically late colleague.
Again, you have to avoid the "you were always late" trap. We're back to leading the witness. Use open-ended, seemingly helpful questions. Hey, I've noticed a pattern with report deadlines being missed. What challenges are you encountering?
It sounds so supportive. What challenges are you encountering? Like, you're there to help.
It forces them to explain themselves.
Yeah.
They can't just get defensive because you haven't technically accused them of anything. You've just asked about their obstacles.
What?
And then you hit them with the data-driven impact statement.
Which is?
Your lateness to the last 3 team meetings caused us to lose a combined 15 minutes of agenda time, which meant we couldn't make a decision on the budget. Facts, not character attacks.
Finally in this section, personality clashes. You just hate Dave. You don't like his face. You don't like his voice. You don't like how he breathes. It happens.
It absolutely happens. We are human. But you cannot go to your boss and say, "I hate Dave." You have to reframe it. You frame it as a communication issue or a workflow preference.
The example in the source for this is great. Instead of saying, "Stop micromanaging me,"
right,
you say,
"I really appreciate your attention to detail on this, but I feel I am more productive and creative when I have a bit more autonomy on this type of task."
And notice the use of "I feel."
Yes. I feel my input isn't being considered. It's so much harder to argue with than "you never listened to me." You can't really argue with someone's feelings. They are their subjective truth. But you can absolutely argue with an accusation. It just disarms the entire conflict before it begins.
Okay, we're getting into the deep water now. Section 5, high-level navigation. We're talking office politics, toxicity, and HR. This is where the stakes go from annoying to, well, livelihood threatening.
This is where the art of complaining becomes the art of self-preservation. Let's start with politics and gossip. The source recommends what it calls the Switzerland strategy.
Total neutrality.
Absolute neutrality. If someone comes to your desk and makes a snide comment about a coworker or starts spreading rumors, you smile politely and you change the subject. Do not give the gossip oxygen.
Because even if you just nod, you're complicit.
You are. If you agree, you're an ally in their gossip. You just have to be a black hole for negativity. That's interesting. Hey, did you see the email about the potluck on Friday? Deflect, deflect, deflect.
But what if you're the target? What if Switzerland is being invaded? What if the toxicity and the gossip are directed at you?
Then you document everything. Dates, times, specific quotes, who was there, who heard it. This is a recurring theme in the source material, and it's the most important one. Documentation is your shield. Your memory is not enough.
This leads us directly to toxic environments and when to escalate. The source is very, very clear here. Before you go to a manager or HR, you need evidence, not vibes.
Exactly. "My boss is mean" is a vibe. My boss yelled at me in front of 2 colleagues on Tuesday at 2 p.m. and said my work was pathetic. And then on Thursday, he undermined my presentation in front of the client by interrupting me 5 times is evidence.
Right. HR can act on evidence. They cannot act on your feelings that someone has bad energy.
They can't, and they won't. You have to give them something concrete to work with.
So what about actually escalating to HR? That feels like such a huge step, a point of no return.
It is described in the source as a nuclear option sometimes, but a necessary one. Their advice is to look for strength in numbers. If a manager is truly toxic, chances are you are not the only victim.
So you should talk to your colleagues.
Carefully, but yes. Finding out if others are experiencing the same thing is crucial. Approaching HR as a group or even just having corroboration from others creates a pattern that is much harder for the company to ignore. It moves the conversation from a potential interpersonal conflict to a clear management liability.
But there is a grim reality check in the source, too. It's not always a happy ending.
No. It talks about the ultimate boundary.
Yeah.
And that's your mental health. If you have documented, if you have built alliances, if you've gone to HR, and the environment is still toxic and unchangeable, the solution is leaving. The source says, no job is worth sacrificing your health. It's so important to know when to fold them. Sometimes the best problem-solving skill is recognizing that the problem is the building itself and you need to exit it.
Sometimes the solution to a workplace problem is a new workplace. That's powerful. But before we leave this topic, there's one last piece of advice that I think is really important because it flips the mirror back on us. Owning your own mistakes.
This is so critical. If you are the problem, if you messed up, all the rules change. You don't sandwich it. You don't deflect blame. You don't use the passive voice like mistakes were made.
You just own it.
You own it immediately, cleanly, and completely. The source gives a simple formula for this too.
Which is?
It's acknowledge the mistake plus apologize for the impact plus state your plan to fix it or prevent it from happening again.
I realize I sent the confidential email to the wrong person. I sincerely apologize for this error and for any confusion it caused. I've already contacted them to recall it, and I'm creating a new checklist for myself to ensure this doesn't happen again.
It's clean. It's professional. It stops the rumor mill dead in its tracks. People respect ownership. It actually shows you are in control, even when you make an error. If you try to hide a mistake, you look weak and untrustworthy. If you own it and fix it, you look resilient.
So, bringing it all together now, we've covered a lot of ground today. We have the Sarah method of depersonalizing blame. We have the I've tried list for any technical issues. We have the business case for systemic complaints. We have Sam Vayas. We have the Switzerland strategy for gossip.
It's a whole toolkit.
Yeah.
And the common thread, really, through all of these tools is a fundamental shift in mindset. You stop thinking of yourself as a victim of circumstances who needs to vent to anyone who will listen. And you start thinking of yourself as an efficiency consultant for your own job.
I love that framing. You aren't complaining. You are identifying obstacles to productivity.
Exactly. You are clearing the path for yourself and for your team. And when you frame it that way, you aren't the whiner in the office. You suddenly the most valuable person on the team because you are the one who is actively making things work better. You're the mechanic of the office dynamic.
And breathing. Don't forget to breathe.
That is a crucial step. Always take a breath before you hit send on that email.
So here's a final thought for you listening. The source talks a lot about data and language and strategy, but I want you to think for a second about the recipient of your well-crafted complaint. Your boss, your colleague, they're just people. They're probably also snowed under, also dealing with broken printers, and also desperately trying to avoid looking incompetent.
That's so true.
When you bring them a problem that is already wrapped in a potential solution using clear, neutral, impact-focused language, you aren't just helping yourself. You are actually making their life easier. You're solving a problem for them, and that is how you win.
That is the ultimate why it matters. You become an asset, not a burden.
Precisely. Go forth, use the sandwich, document everything, and good luck out there. Thanks for diving in with us today.
See you next time.
You know that specific feeling? It's usually like 3:00 p.m. on a Tuesday. The coffee has worn off, that afternoon slump is hitting, and you're just staring at your monitor, and the cursor is just blinking in a draft email, just mocking you. Or maybe you're standing outside your boss's office, hands sort of hovering over the door handle, and your stomach just drops.
The pit. It's a very distinct feeling.
It is the pit. It's that heavy, cold, physical weight of anxiety because you know you have to say something difficult. Maybe you have to admit to a manager that you have absolutely no idea how to do the task they just assigned you, and the deadline is in, what, an hour?
Oh, that's a bad one.
Or maybe you have to tell a client that their project, their baby is dead. Or maybe, and this one is the worst one for me, you have to tell a boss that their brilliant new idea is actually going to crash the company.
It's the universal fight or flight moment of the modern office. And it's fascinating from a biological standpoint.
How so?
Well, because we aren't running from lions on the savannah anymore,
Yeah.
right? We are running from awkward conversations in climate-controlled rooms. But the body, it doesn't know the difference.
Right. It's the same chemicals.
Exactly. And the real tragedy is that this physiological response, the adrenaline, the racing heart, the sweaty palms, it kicks in exactly when we need our executive functioning, our logic.
Right. Your brain basically shuts down the logic centers just when you need to be smart and, articulate. And usually when that feeling hits, we react in one of two ways.
Okay.
We either ghost the conversation entirely, we hide in the bathroom, pretend we didn't see the email, which, never ends well, or we blunder through it. We just open our mouths and panic talk.
Panic talking is a perfect term for it. I love that. We just fill the air with noise, hoping we stumble upon the right answer.
Totally.
But today we're doing a deep dive into a really comprehensive guide on professional communication that effectively says, start panic talking and start strategizing. We have a stack of material here that breaks down the specific scripts, the psychology, and the exact phrases to turn those minefield moments into actual career wins.
And that is the key distinction I want to make right at the top. This isn't just a deep dive about talking nice or, being polite. We are not doing an etiquette class here.
No, not at all.
This is about strategic communication. The source material we're looking at today, it covers the full spectrum, from the vulnerability of asking for help to the nuanced art of delivering really bad news.
It's about emotional intelligence. It's about clarity. It's about how to control the narrative of your own professionalism. The underlying theme in all the research we pulled is that the most successful people, they aren't necessarily the ones who never have problems.
Right.
They're the ones who communicate about those problems in a way that builds trust rather than, eroding it.
Exactly. So if you've ever spent 3 days struggling with a spreadsheet because you were too scared to ask for 5 minutes of help, this deep dive is specifically for you. We're going to cover everything from managing up to navigating some of these cultural landmines.
And we're going to look at why our instincts are, they're often just wrong in these moments.
Okay, let's unpack this. I really want to start with that scenario I just mentioned, the fear of asking for help. Because the material we have, it points out this massive paradox here. Early in our careers, or even later when we start a new role, we have this terror that asking for help makes us look incompetent. We think, if I ask, they'll know I'm a fraud.
The imposter syndrome response is so pervasive. You think, I was hired because they think I'm smart. If I ask a question, I prove I'm dumb.
Exactly.
But the reality check from the source material is, it's quite counterintuitive. It argues that asking for help, when you do it correctly, is actually a primary signal of professionalism.
Not weakness.
Not weakness. It's an efficiency calculation.
There's this great anecdote in the notes that illustrates this perfectly. Let's call him John. So John is a bright guy, new to the company. He gets assigned a task involving some complex software configuration. He hits a wall almost immediately.
I know this feeling.
Oh, yeah. But he doesn't want to look like he doesn't know what he's doing. So he puts his head down, he grinds, he spends 3 entire days trying to figure out the software issue. 3 days.
Wow. I can feel the stress just hearing that. The anxiety must have been building.
He was probably getting more and more stressed, refusing to crack, drinking way too much coffee. And finally, the deadline is looming, he's totally exhausted, and he asks a colleague. The colleague looks at the screen, types 2 commands, and fixes it in 5 minutes.
And that is the 3 days versus 5 minutes rule. It's so powerful. From a business perspective, John thinks he was being noble, right? I'm going to solve it myself.
Right, and being diligent.
But from the manager's perspective, hiding your struggle for 3 days is the actual incompetence. You've just wasted company time, salary, and resources, all to protect your ego.
That is such a heavy reframing. We usually think struggling in silence is grit.
Sometimes it is, but often it's just inefficiency. The truly professional move is to recognize the diminishing returns of your own struggle. You have to be able to say, okay, I have banged my head against this wall for an hour. My return on investment for this time is dropping. I need to leverage the team's knowledge.
And this is a huge but. There is a right way and a wrong way to ask.
Huge but.
You can't just be the person who walks up and says, I don't get it, fix this for me. That person is annoying.
That person gets fired.
Yeah.
Precisely. You don't want to be the lazy asker. The guide suggests a show your work strategy. And I love this because it's just like math class. You get credit for the process.
Okay, so break down the formula for us. What does that look like?
It's basically 3 steps. Step 1, you demonstrate effort first. You don't lead with, I don't know. You lead with, here is what I have done.
Okay.
So instead of walking up to someone and saying, I can't do this report, which just sounds helpless.
Yeah.
You say, I've been working on the quarterly report and I've tried approaches A and B, but I'm still struggling with the data formatting.
I see the difference immediately. The first one sounds like I'm lazy.
Yeah. Do it for me.
The second one sounds like I'm a problem solver who has hit a specific tactical roadblock.
Exactly. You're framing yourself as an active participant in the solution, not just a passive recipient of help. And then step 2 is specificity. Don't say, can you help me?
It's too big.
It's way too big. It feels like a massive burden to the person you're asking. It sounds like, could you do my job for me?
Right. It's vague and scary for them.
Instead, you say, could you walk me through setting up this pivot table? Or could you show me where this specific file lives? Now the helper knows exactly what the ask is.
It's containable.
It's containable. They know it'll probably take 2 minutes, not 2 hours.
And step 3, which seems so obvious, but we all forget it when we're stressed. Respect the time. You can't just barge in. The phrase, do you have a moment, is so crucial.
Context is everything. Especially now in open plan offices or with remote work, where you literally can't see if someone is deep in focus.
Totally.
If you interrupt someone's flow state, even a really smart question becomes a nuisance. You have to ask permission to enter their headspace.
Now, there's another tactic in here that I think is brilliant for ensuring you don't have to ask the same question twice. It's called the paraphrase, or looping back.
This is your insurance policy. We've all been there. Someone explains something complex, you nod along because you want to look smart.
Oh, yeah, just nodding and smiling.
And then you walk away, and 5 minutes later you realize you absorbed absolutely nothing.
Every single time.
The looping back technique solves this.
Yeah.
As soon as they finish giving instructions, you just say, okay, just to make sure I understand correctly. And then you summarize what they said, but in your own words.
Like, so you're saying I should submit the form before the meeting, not after.
Exactly that. It seems so simple, but why is it so effective psychologically?
Well, tell me.
It serves 2 functions. First, cognitively, it cements the instruction for you. You have to process it to speak it back.
Right.
But second, and this is maybe more important, it signals to the mentor that you are fully engaged. You value their instruction enough to verify it. It builds trust that you aren't going to mess this up 5 minutes later. It shows you're meticulous.
It's like active listening on steroids. So what about who you ask? The source makes a real distinction between asking your boss versus asking, say, a mentor. Is there really a difference in how you frame the question?
A huge difference. With a boss, you really want to frame questions around proactive problem solving and clarifying resources.
For example,
I've reviewed the guidelines, but I need clarity on the budget allocation to move forward. That shows you're ready to execute, but you need the parameters defined. You're thinking about the business.
Whereas with a mentor,
you can frame requests more as development opportunities. Things like, I'm really keen to improve my presentation skills. Would you be willing to watch me and give some feedback?
so it plays to their ego a little bit.
It plays to the mentor's ego and their desire to teach. It's less about fix this task for me and more about help me grow.
That's a great segue, actually. Let's talk about that F word, feedback. Giving it and receiving it. The source material is surprisingly brutal on the topic of nice feedback. It basically says telling someone good job is a useless waste of oxygen.
It is empty calories communication. It's a perfect analogy. It feels good for a second, it's sweet, but it provides zero nutritional value for professional growth.
Right.
If you tell me, good job on the presentation, I don't know what to repeat next time. Was it my slides? My speaking voice? My data analysis? What part was good?
You're flying completely blind for the next one.
Exactly. The alternative is specificity. I really appreciated how you structured the data in that presentation. The visuals made the complex information so much easier to understand.
Now I know exactly what my strength is.
Now you know your visual structure works. You can replicate that.
So specificity is the tool for praise. But what about the hard stuff? Constructive criticism, telling someone they messed up without making them hate you for it. The guide suggests a golden rule here. Focus on the behavior, not the person.
This is the fundamental disconnect in most arguments, professional or personal. When we get annoyed, we tend to attack someone's identity.
Yeah, we make it personal.
If I say, you are disorganized, I am attacking who you are, I am labeling you.
Yeah.
And you will naturally, biologically defend your identity. You'll fight back.
Right, because I don't think I'm a disorganized person in general.
Of course not. But if I say, the report was missing key sections, maybe a checklist would help next time, I am critiquing a product and a process.
The you is safe.
The you is safe. The work needs fixing. It lowers the defensive walls because we are both looking at this external object, the report, rather than me looking at you and judging you.
That makes total sense. It separates the sinner from the sin, so to speak. But here is where it gets really interesting to me. Managing up, giving feedback to your boss. This feels like walking into a lion's den. How do you tell the person who controls your paycheck that they might be wrong or that their process is broken?
With extreme caution and very specific phrasing. You never, ever frame it as a correction. You frame it as a perspective or, my favorite, a curiosity.
Curiosity is a great shield.
It is.
Yeah.
The source suggests phrases like, I was wondering if we might consider a different approach. Or, I have some ideas that might help regarding the client meeting runtimes.
I was wondering if I like that. It sounds so much safer than we should change this.
It is. It's inviting them into a thought process with you. You are offering a resource, not a critique. You are putting an idea on the table for them to pick up, rather than throwing it at them. If they say no, you haven't really lost anything because you were just wondering. But usually they'll say, oh, what did you have in mind?
Okay, now let's flip the script. Receiving feedback. The source calls this the hardest skill of all. And I totally agree. When someone criticizes my work, even if they use the golden rule, my immediate internal reaction is, no, you're wrong, and here are the 10 reasons why.
That is the amygdala hijack we mentioned earlier. Your brain perceives a threat to your status, to your ego. Your pulse quickens. You stop listening and you start drafting your rebuttal in your head.
That's it, exactly.
And the single most important technique the source offers here is simply the pause.
Just silence.
Controlled silence. You take a breath. You force yourself to listen specifically to the words, suppressing that urge to formulate a defense while they are still talking. And then you use a script to buy yourself emotional processing time.
Okay, what's the script?
Thank you for the feedback. I'll take some time to think about that.
That is so powerful. It just stops you from saying something defensive in the heat of the moment.
Yes.
You're not agreeing with them necessarily. You're just agreeing to process the data.
Exactly. It's a buffer.
Yeah.
And if you are confused, or if the feedback feels unfair or vague, you ask for data, not emotion. You say, could you give me an example of when that behavior occurred? This moves the conversation from feelings to facts.
And what if you genuinely disagree? What if they say you were rude to a client and you know you absolutely weren't?
You can do that diplomatically. The phrase is, I see things differently, but I will reflect on what you said. You validate their voice without invalidating your own reality. It's a very, very mature way to handle conflict.
I see things differently. It's firm, but it's polite. Okay, so that's the feedback loop. But now I want to move into the really heavy lifting. Segment 3. Navigating the minefield. We're talking about actual bad news, project cancellations, layoffs, the stuff that just ruins your weekend.
The source uses the scenario of a canceled project. A team has worked for months, and now the budget is gone. The temptation here, the thing we all want to do, is to sugarcoat.
Of course.
We feel bad. We feel guilty. So we use vague language to soften the blow. We say things like, we're pausing for now, or we might revisit this in Q3.
We think we're being nice.
But we aren't. We're being cowardly. Ambiguity is the enemy of trust. If people think you are hiding the truth, they will panic. Your mind will fill in the blanks with things that are way worse than reality.
So how do you balance being direct with not being a complete robot?
You state the fact clearly. The project has been canceled due to budget constraints. But then you acknowledge the human impact immediately. I know this is really disappointing. I know how hard you all worked.
Okay.
And then, and this is the part most people miss, you embrace the silence.
The silence. Again, that's so hard.
When you drop a bomb like that, the other person needs a moment to recalibrate their reality. Their brain is scrambling. If you keep talking, if you rush to fill that silence with nervous chatter about next steps or it's not so bad,
you're disrespecting their process.
you are completely disrespecting their processing time. You deliver the news, you acknowledge the emotion, and then you wait. You give them the space to react.
That is so hard to do. We hate silence. It feels like we're failing, but you're saying it's actually a kindness.
It is the ultimate kindness in a crisis. It says, I am confident enough to sit with you in this discomfort. I am not running away from your reaction. It builds incredible trust.
Let's talk about another minefield, performance issues. The source mentions a scenario where a team member is consistently missing meetings. The instinct is just to say, hey, you're flaking out, stop it.
Which again, it attacks the person and it creates a conflict. The better approach is a sequence. First, you state the behavior. You've missed the last 3 team meetings, just the facts. Second, you state the impact. It's creating challenges for the group to make decisions. And then, the pivot.
Okay, what's the pivot?
You ask for their perspective before you pass judgment. You ask, is there something going on I should know about?
That pivot is genius. It completely changes the tone. Because what if they say, yeah, actually, my mom is in the hospital?
Exactly. And suddenly, if you had come in guns blazing, you'd look like a monster.
A total monster.
By asking, is there something going on? Aker, you gather data before you decide on the verdict. It creates a safety valve. If there is a legitimate issue, you can support them.
And if there isn't, if they just, overslept or forgot.
But then you move to setting clear expectations for the future. Okay, I understand. Moving forward, I need you to attend. How can I support you in making that happen?
How can I support you? I love that. It puts the ball back in their court while maintaining your position as a leader. Now, sticking with difficult conversations, let's go back to the boss. But this time, it's not just feedback. It's a disagreement on a major decision. The boss wants to change vendors, and it's a disaster waiting to happen.
This is where you have to lean on two things: business impact and data. Emotion has absolutely no place here.
So you don't say, I don't like this new vendor.
No. You say, based on past experience with this type of transition, switching now risks a 2-week delay in the project timeline. You anchor your objection to the company's goals, not your personal preference. You're arguing on behalf of the company's success.
And what if the boss says, I hear you, but we're doing it anyway?
Then you have to employ the disagree and commit principle. This is a hallmark of high-level professional maturity. Jeff Bezos talks about this often in Amazon.
Disagree and commit.
You say, okay, I've voiced my concern, but I respect the decision. I will do everything I can to make this vendor switch a success.
That's tough to swallow sometimes, but I get it. You're not being a doormat, you're being a soldier. You fought your corner, you lost, now you march with the army.
It prevents you from becoming that toxic naysayer who secretly hopes the project fails, just so you can say, I told you so.
Which helps no one.
No one. Disagree and commit protects team cohesion. It shows you're a team player above all else.
Okay, one last specific difficult scenario in this segment. The art of saying no. We are all overworked. Someone tries to dump a new project on you. The source warns about the over-explanation trap.
Oh, yes. When we feel guilty about saying no, we tend to offer this laundry list of excuses. I can't because I have this other report and my cat is sick and I have a headache.
Right.
The more you explain, the more it sounds like you are negotiating or asking for permission to say no.
It weakens your position. It sounds like if they just solve one of your excuses for you, then you'll have to say yes.
Exactly. If you say, I can't because I have to finish this report, they can just say, oh, that report isn't due until Friday, so you can do this first. You walked right into it.
So what's the alternative? How do you say no gracefully?
The graceful decline. It's a clear no, plus an alternative solution. I'm not able to take that on right now due to my current workload, but perhaps Sarah might be interested, or maybe we can look at this again next quarter.
So you're closing the door on your involvement.
But opening a window for the problem to be solved elsewhere, you're still being helpful, just not by doing the work yourself.
Short, sweet, and helpful. I love that. Now, I want to zoom out a bit. We've been talking about these specific scripts, but context changes everything. Segment 4 covers advanced dynamics, specifically culture and the mechanics of meetings. The source uses a Japanese example that I think is really illuminating regarding directness.
Yes, this is absolutely crucial for anyone working in a globalized environment. The spectrum of direct versus indirect communication is vast. In some places, like the US, Germany, or the Netherlands, a no is often just a no. It's efficient. We value clarity over feelings sometimes.
But in other cultures?
In other cultures, that's seen as incredibly blunt, even rude. The source mentions that in a Japanese context, a phrase like, that might be difficult, is functionally a hard no.
Really? That might be difficult.
It's a hard no. They are saving your face and their own by not rejecting you outright.
To my American ears, that sounds like, convince me, or we can work it out. It sounds like an invitation to negotiate.
And that misinterpretation causes massive friction. You keep pushing because you think there's a chance, and they feel you're being incredibly rude because in their mind, they have already given you the answer.
Wow.
The lesson here isn't just about Japan, though. It's about reading the room, wherever you are.
So what's the takeaway? What do we do?
If you are in a cross-cultural setting, the best advice is to err on the side of politeness and indirectness until you know the baseline, and listen for what isn't being said. If you're not getting an enthusiastic yes, it might actually be a no.
It's about calibrating your receiver. Okay, let's talk about the Thunderdome, the meeting. It's one thing to have a hard chat one-on-one. It's another to do it when 6 other people are watching. The source has some great tactical advice for meeting mechanics.
Well, the first rule is preparation. If you know a difficult topic is coming up on the agenda, do not wing it. Pre-plan your entry point.
Right.
But the real art is in the entry and exit. How do you get a word in edgewise when everyone is talking over each other?
I always feel so rude interrupting people.
The phrase, building on what Names said, is a golden key.
So, building on what Sarah said, I think we also need to consider X.
Exactly. It validates the previous speaker. So Sarah feels heard and likes you, while you seamlessly steal the floor for yourself. It makes you look like a synthesizer of ideas, not just an interrupter.
That's good. It makes you look like you're actually paying attention. But what if you are the one who gets interrupted? That happens all the time.
The source suggests being assertive, but polite. You have to claim your space. A simple, just a moment, I'd like to finish my thought.
Verb.
You can't let yourself be steamrolled or you lose authority in the room. You have to hold your ground.
And what if the meeting goes completely off the rails? If people are yelling or it's getting really tense?
You play the role of the de-escalator. You have to be the adult in the room. A phrase like, let's take a step back and consider all the perspectives here, can break the emotional momentum.
Just cools things down.
And crucially, if you are the one who messed up, if you said something wrong or cited the wrong number in front of everyone, own it immediately.
Don't just double down and hope no one noticed.
Never, ever double down on an error. Actually, I misspoke. Let me clarify. Speed is your friend there. It stops the misinformation from setting like concrete, and honestly, it shows confidence. Only confident people can admit mistakes that fast.
I want to wrap up this section with what the source calls code words. These are idioms that act like shorthand in business. And if you don't know them, you might miss the entire nuance of the conversation. We've got clear the air, bite the bullet, put your cards on the table, and break the ice.
These are such vivid metaphors, aren't they? Clear the air isn't just about talking. It's about removing the invisible toxicity or tension in the room. It acknowledges that there's a bad smell to the relationship that needs ventilating.
And bite the bullet. That's one of my favorites. It implies pain, right? There's something unpleasant about it.
Historically, yes. It refers to battlefield surgery before there was anesthesia. You'd literally bite a lead bullet to distract from the pain of the saw.
Oh.
So in business, it implies doing the necessary unpleasant thing you have been avoiding. You bite the bullet and fire the underperformer. You bite the bullet and confess the big mistake. It signals courage in the face of pain.
And put your cards on the table. That one's from poker.
Total transparency. No more bluffing. It's a call for radical honesty. Okay, I'm going to put my cards on the table. We can't afford this project.
And break the ice, removing that initial social frost so real communication can finally flow. These idioms are really tools then. They convey complex social situations in just 3 or 4 words.
Exactly. They are high bandwidth communication. They pack a lot of meaning into a small package.
So we've covered a lot of ground here. We've gone from the anxiety of asking for help to the strategy of the show your work formula. We've looked at the feedback loop, specificity over praise, behavior over person. We've talked about the power of silence when delivering bad news and the disagree and commit mindset.
If we synthesize all of this, the core philosophy that emerges is that communication is not a personality trait. It is a practiced skill.
That's a huge point.
So many people think, oh, I'm just not good at confrontation, or I'm just naturally a quiet person. The source material basically says that's a cop-out. These are scripts. These are algorithms for human interaction. You can learn them.
It's like learning a martial art or a new language. You drill the moves, the pause, the pivot, the paraphrase, until they become muscle memory and you don't have to think about them in the moment.
Exactly. And here is the provocative thought I'd like to leave you with. We often view these difficult conversations as threats to our professional relationships. We think, if I give this critical feedback, they won't like me anymore. Or if I tell the boss no, I'll be fired.
We think avoidance preserves the relationship, that silence is safe.
But the data and all the experience in these guides suggests the opposite is true. The most difficult conversations, when handled with these techniques, with respect, with clarity, with a genuine desire to listen, are actually the ones that build the deepest professional trust.
Because you survived it together, you were honest with each other, and the relationship held. It didn't break.
It got stronger. Trust isn't built when everything is easy and everyone agrees all the time. Trust is forged when things are hard, when the pressure's on, and you both navigate it with integrity.
So that's your mission, should you choose to accept it. Identify that one conversation you've been avoiding, the one where you know you need to bite the bullet. Plan your script, use the show your work or the I was wondering if technique, and go have it.
Don't let the anxiety win. Use the strategy.
Thanks for diving deep with us today. We'll see you next time.